Hey everybody, it is June. We are finally in the waning steps towards E3, Electronic Entertainment Expo. It is once again time to speculate and worry about a ton of awful and potentially good rumors. I'm Stevie B.
Hey, and I'm Benny D.
Benny D. Ben DeFever.
Benny D.
Himself.
Yeah, that's me.
So,
hey, I haven't gotten rid of this crappy microphone.
Oh boy, he's still on it, folks. How long can he get by?
Oh man, it's been a while too.
Didn't your wife talk to you about that?
Yeah, when we did the last podcast, which I think was a month ago.
A month ago? Well,
oh jeez.
Well, time works different for us because we're always accelerating, and that podcast is so far into the past that it might as well have been a year ago to me, even if we did it a week ago. Maybe we did do it a week ago. Nobody really knows, because when did we drop it? I don't know. When's this going to drop? It doesn't matter. See, time is just a concept. It is what we make of it.
Please, let's get this one out before E3.
This will be out before E3. I'll make sure of it. But before we head into E3, we've got some games to talk about. It's been a hectic month in May. It's been a really big month for releases. In fact, I'm looking at my list right now. There were more big releases in May than any other month of this year, just by my count.
Really?
I think so.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Do you have a list?
I have a list. I have a list of every release that I like from every month. So
I'm into that.
Yeah, so for May, I had it marked down as Injustice 2, I had Prey, The Surge, Friday the 13th, Shadow Warrior 2, which kind of counts, kind of doesn't. I'm counting the console release here. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Dead Cells, Disgaea 5, which is again a re-release, but it's kind of a big deal because it's on a Switch, and Switch doesn't have shit. Tokyo 42, I got Hover, Revolt of Gamers. I think that might be it. I think Flinthook also came out in May. That's correct, right?
No.
Oh.
Flinthook, April.
Okay.
Early April.
Okay, early April. But that's a big list of shit. That's a big list.
Shoot, I could be wrong on early April. I don't know. It came out in April.
It came out between the months of April and June, but not in June.
Yeah. Not in... Yeah.
Somewhere between that. But the point is, that is the month that has the most releases that I was interested in. I mean, maybe for other people, nobody cares about any of that shit, you know. What's the Surge? What's Prey? Like, you know, shit like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I don't know that the quality of the releases has really matched up to what we saw earlier in the year. I think that we're starting to see the games that are worthy of like 7s and 6s and 8s like that.
Worthy of 7s and 6s. I think definitely the quality, definitely wasn't as wild as the first 4 months. You know, even with stuff like The Surge, I don't think it got really publicized all that much. Prey alone went through kind of a little bit of a rough patch. It got fixed pretty decently. Certainly not as much of a debacle as Arcane's previous game last year, Dishonored 2, was, where you had to wait kind of a month for several things to get fixed, especially on the PC version. I think Prey, more than anything, has been victim to Bethesda's horrible review policy, which is really, really sad. But, you know, it is what it is, Bethesda.
The game didn't suffer for it, though. Like, I think that the reviews overall that I've seen have been pretty positive, and it's really... I guess I'm not following too many of those huge channels, but I'm mostly just hearing good chatter about it.
Yeah, the majority of it has been good. I mean, it's definitely the majority of reviews have been pretty good. Yeah, like you said, there have been a lot of people who were, I think, a little bit desperate to see another kind of game in that game, and maybe it wasn't really what they thought it would be like. It was a little too difficult, I think, for people. Maybe just a variety of things. I'll leave it to everybody else to dope it all out. But I'm pretty much 80% or 85% of my way to beating it. And so far, I think it's incredibly interesting. Probably the closest we've gotten to a 3D Metroid game in the last decade,
really?
I'd say. Yeah.
3D Metroid. I have not yet heard Prey described as 3D Metroid.
A lot of people say System Shock, which is also very appropriate, and they'll say like, oh, it has tinges and flecks of Deus Ex in there, which is really no accident, because the people of Arcane have been heavily involved with games like Deus Ex and System Shock 2, because one of the guys was a QA assistant to those games, and another guy was like a full-on developer and writer for it as well. So they definitely know their shit. A lot of their games have their influences pretty much on their sleeves. And you saw that with Dishonored as well, because the guy who made that was very heavily involved in the creation of Deus Ex, or at least the first one.
Well, that makes sense then.
Yeah, it all makes sense. In the end, everything makes sense. It all... We've got a giant conspiracy board.
The universe becomes one.
We will all become one. We'll all become unified, and I'll tell you why. If we just create a church based on the influence of the Nintendo Switch, then we might achieve world peace. And I have a Nintendo Switch now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, everybody. I have a Nintendo Switch. So
it is actually kind of exciting. I'm sure you're incredibly excited, but just the fact that it's still kind of a hard thing to get right now. They pop up and then they sell out again. I don't know where we're at this exact moment, but I don't know. It's a really cool piece of hardware. I'm still itching to get one.
It's very clean. It's very neat. There's not a lot of clutter in the UI or how the system works. Sometimes to its detriment, because the eShop, there's not really a lot of options of like how to search through things. But then again, the whole eShop library is kind of like 3 or 4 pages anyway, so you don't really need that kind of search function. I had my doubts about buying it this early, and truth be told, I had around 4 to 5 opportunities to purchase it before I got it last month, and my finger always just hovered over the button. And this time, my finger slipped, and I kind of accidentally ordered it. And I figured,
that's how you got it.
I figured, you know what? I'm not going to press cancel. Fuck it. You know what? I've got it. So I've got a few games for it. I've got Puyo Puyo Tetris, which I'm horrible at. I can't beat a single goddamn thing. I've got Blaster Master Zero, which is actually pretty fun. It's pretty interesting. It's like a retro classic thing that they updated with a lot of modern ticks in it. So for your enjoyment, it's very endearing that they went back and changed a lot of it, updated it for 2017.
I have some fond memories of the original Blaster Master, but I, for years and years and years, couldn't remember what the name of the game was. Because the image that was shown on the promo poster for the SNES, which I oddly still had. Oh no, for the NES, because it was NES. The promo poster shows like a first-person view.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a light gun game for years.
Oh,
and then
okay.
I looked it up one day and, stumbled upon it. I ended up picking it up for the Wii U. I don't think I made it too far. It's very difficult. Like, it's just one continuous world, right? It's kind of the pre-Metroidvania.
It's kind of like that, but they do have save points. You have like places where you can, stop your progress. So it's very much taken into the modern era, with modern amenities. So you don't have to rely on like some kind of password system where you're writing down 15 letters or something.
Right.
But it's pretty good. I haven't played that much of it, but it seems pretty interesting.
Who published that?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Shoot.
I have no idea who published it, but that's the second game I bought. Then I bought Garu Mark of the Wolves, which is amazing. I'm playing Garu Mark of the Wolves on the new best-selling Nintendo handheld console, which is a sentence that is ridiculous. Every part of that sentence is ridiculous. And it plays really well. I'm actually surprised how well I was able to execute everything just on the Nintendo controllers, which are really great, by the way, especially with the quote-unquote HD Rumble, which works really nicely with Blaster Master. you feel it, just to quote like the old N64 ads. Like it's something else, and they use it to great effect with that stupid 1-2 switch game, which I don't own, but I tried, and it's kind of cool. It's more like a tech demo than anything, but it really shows you.
I don't think it's worth the price.
It's $40. Fuck that.
I hate to backtrack and derail you here, but Blaster Master Zero is published by Inti Creates, which, let's face it, they're amazing.
Bomb, Inti Creates.
Yeah. Inti is excellent, so no surprise that game would be cool, and definitely a retouch of a classic that was already really cool, so...
they have Mighty Gunvolt as a DLC character, which I got.
God. Man...
That's pretty cool.
In that game?
Yeah, in that game. Kidding? And he's got all his powers incredible. And shit, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, yeah, they're doing a really good job, because they're doing the Mighty Gunvolt Burst, which you will have access to almost 2 weeks before me. Comes out on June 15th.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right,
yeah,
so I'll get
dude,
that
it is like
week.
A straight-up throwback to Mega Man. I'm pumped to see this game come out.
I like the Gunvolt games, yeah.
Yeah, and especially after Mighty Number 9 was just, ugh. It's basically like, they didn't directly say this, but they were kind of hinting that it was like their way of both apologizing that game existed, and that they wanted to show that there is a good version that can be made. So I'm excited. It's got a lot of Mighty Number 9 bosses and characters in it, and they're going to add DLC down the line. So that was a huge derail, but it is Switch news. So
are we getting what is it? Gunvolt. Are we getting a Gunvolt collection for the Switch? I forgot if we are.
Yeah. Striker Gunvolt pack is coming out on Switch as well.
That's great, because I played most of the first Gunvolt game, but I never finished it, and I never played the second game, so that's going to be a good purchase.
I haven't played it yet either. I've had it for months. I've been sitting on it. It's one of my favorite franchises for 3DS, and haven't touched it yet.
Oh, great! We can both play it together when it comes out. Yeah,
let's do a podcast on that one time.
On Mighty Gunvolt.
Double down.
Because we're going to have nothing to talk about, guys. In the summer, there's nothing's really coming out. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean, there might be some surprises next week. Who knows? And just to wrap this up, the last game I got was Disgaea 5, which is the most anime game I've ever played in my life. It is almost disgusting how fucking anime this shit is. But it's a tactics game, and it's got a wild wealth of options in it. It's like, it's mind-blowing how much bullshit is in this game on a good level, but it does tend to get a little overwhelming. I mean, to the point where there's an option where every item in the game is its own world, and you can go inside this item world to make it stronger. So if I have a chocolate bar in this game, I go inside this chocolate bar and beat the shit out of chocolate bar enemies to strengthen this chocolate bar item. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This game is fucking batshit. Like, they were just on some kind of drugs when they were making this, but I'm enjoying it so far. So those are my 4 games right now, and I'm actually thinking about getting Thumper soon.
Oh, is that on Switch already?
That's on Switch. Have you ever played that?
No, I've heard really good things.
So have I.
I want to check it out on PSVR.
Oh, yeah.
That is hard to come by. Like, yeah. I do know a bunch of people that play it, but the only opportunities I can't usually make it out. So, yeah, I've heard it's really cool. Like, it's made by a musician, right? So it fuses that, like, beautiful soundtrack with gameplay in a way that, I don't know, not in a dance game way.
It's called rhythm violence, Ben.
Thank you. Yeah, rhythm violence.
That's what they say it is. I don't understand. But...
yeah, I think that would be a good one to pick up on Switch. I mean, oh man, you're gonna have a boatload of good ones. I think after E3, the ARMS is coming out soon, and
reviews are coming out soon in about 30 hours or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I don't think it's going to be a world breaker kind of thing, but I do think it's going to be a nice, fun thing.
Yeah, I think that one will get pretty good ratings because it's new and new to Nintendo.
Yeah.
So, like, those are always good in people's eyes. So
I did try the test punch thing that they had out last week. So
what'd you think?
I got to cut my teeth on it just in some online matches, and I thought it was not as complex as I think it was made out to be, and the motion controls definitely take a lot of work to understand. At least it was for me.
Oh yeah.
So I played it with motion, and then I also played it just like a normal human being would on on the console, and it controlled fine on there too. Like you still get the whole width of strategy just by playing, normally on the console with the controllers. So it didn't really have any detrimental effects on it. But yeah, my overall impressions were that it was kind of simple. It didn't really have a lot of depth just from the test area that I was in and the test matches I had. But I think the strategy will come in time, especially as you get to play as all the characters and test all the arms and all the arenas. It's definitely not going to be the next Tekken by any means, but it's going to be a very fun-looking, a very beautiful-looking game, and
cool.
It'll be the first, like, big game for me that actually looks like next-gen on the Switch, because all the stuff that I'm playing is just, like, shit that could be on anything in terms of graphic fidelity. And graphics aren't everything, but I want something that really looks ridiculous,
Well, yeah, they pretty much kick-started their system with remasters and fresh ports.
Yeah. Fresh ports here.
Could go for a fresh port.
So I could go for a fresh Bayonetta 2 port.
We'll see. I mean, I don't see why not, but it depends. That game was always a tough sell for Nintendo. It was kind of like beautiful that they let
Labor of Love
Platinum do it twice. Yeah, so I don't know. I'd love to see that, of course. Maybe just Bayonetta 3 instead.
Oh boy, Platinum did say that they were working on something interesting for the Switch. Who knows? It's gonna
be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh god,
beat 'em up port to the Switch.
It's Vanquish 2 exclusively for the Switch.
Vanquish 2 for the Switch, exclusively after they launched it on Steam.
You know what? No joke. I hope it's Mad World 2. I hope they just go nuts and just go Mad World 2. Just the bloodiest, most violent goddamn game with motion controls. Just Mad World 2. Go for it.
Oh man,
that's the Switch for you. But enough about the Switch. I want to hear about. I've been waiting to hear your full take on this game. It's driving me nuts. I've been showing such restraint. I'm like a pack of wolves that's all chained up to this stake, and I can't get loose. And I know I can break the weak link in this chain, and I can go for that sweet piece of meat that is Dead Cells. But I'm waiting, and I don't know what I'm waiting for. So Ben, you have to convince me to break those chains like a Fleetwood Mac song and just buy into this game. Just tell everyone why they should buy into this ridiculously fucking awesome game.
There are probably millions of reasons why you should buy Dead Cells right now.
I'm sold.
But yeah, just that alone. I'm actually curious. Like, okay, this game is in early access on Steam. It came out, a couple weeks ago? It hasn't been out that long, but it's one of the first times I think I've ever seen an early access game get as much publicity as this one has.
That's
and
definitely
I think
true.
with good reason. Like, it's a Metroidvania roguelike. They call it a Roguevania. It came out at a weird time. Like, I've been kind of burnt out on procedural generation,
like roguelike games.
Yeah, I want a little bit of, story, which is what I got out of Hollow Knight, but I still feel like I could go for like a, bite into some hefty narrative and cool gameplay, but it's like I get one or the other, and I haven't gotten both at once much this year. But either way, Dead Cells doesn't have much of a narrative, but it definitely has excellent roguelike usage. So they developed and published by the same group. It's by Motion Twin. They are a French studio. I love that. Like, I think that I've heard more about French games coming out in the past year or so than any other time.
Yeah, France is killing it this year.
I know, it's wild. And these guys like didn't do like can't call them game games, but they did like mobile games and browser games.
Yeah, so little
like
things. Yeah.
well, yeah, little bite-sized games that don't really like have any value to them. They don't really like make you feel good at the end of your play necessarily. So kind of feel dirty and have to take a shower. So this is like their passion project, and I think that they have really hit the nail on the head with what people are wanting out of a roguelike. And I brought two roguelikes to talk to. Dead Cells is one of them, and Flinthook is the other. So this is definitely like a good opportunity to compare the two and why one works over the other one. But I don't know that I personally am good at breaking something like that down. But I will say that Dead Cells offers some really awesome gameplay. So you start as like this pool of cells, and you drop from the ceiling in this gross prison and inhabit a dead prisoner, a beheaded prisoner's body.
So you're the head of this body.
Yeah. If you've ever seen the anime like Do Ra Ra Ra, is that what it is? Like there's a character in it that is like Ichabod Crane, like a headless figure with smoke coming out of the neck. Anyway, it's a really cool looking character. He looks like kind of ninja-like, but yeah, you're just dropped into this prison cell and immediately like stumble upon like a weapon. You get a sword, and then you have an option to choose a bow or a shield, and then you just thrust right into the world. Like, I'm pretty sure in the first play you like talk to one NPC, and then you just dive right into it very briefly. You don't get really any context to why you're there, what you're doing. Not that it's particularly important, but then it's just all side-scrolling 2D action, and essentially, like, if you picture any basic Metroid, Castlevania world where it's just constantly like tunnels that branch off of each other and lead to dead ends or lead to power-ups and all sorts of cool stuff. And then you've got exits like that you can earn by progressing in the game. You can earn the ability to reach more spawns right off of your hub world that you can move into new areas. I actually am curious, like, what did you know about this game before? I feel like this is one that you've been paying close attention to.
I have, yeah. I saw the Giant Bomb quick look, and immediately a lot of people were saying stuff like, oh, this is what I wanted Rogue Legacy to be, because Rogue Legacy had a lot of qualities that were good. Yeah. But one part about Rogue Legacy that I really hated was the very simplistic and very somewhat frustrating combat. And in this game, it seems to be like that thing they shored up with flying colors because it looks absolutely ridiculous.
You, like, weapons-wise, you have a lot of options, and you earn those options by playing the game and collecting cells, which are essentially like souls or, any other, like, bigger currency that you could get from killing enemies. And I'm not entirely sure how the consistency on that works. It feels like, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, you usually get a pretty consistent amount of cells by the end of each level, but if you don't make it to the end of that level, you lose all your cells and you gotta start the whole thing over again.
So you don't even get like half of them or anything? Wow.
No, like they're just gone.
Oh, jeez.
You can carry over like gold currency, by earning these power-ups by using the cells, but you do not have that same situation for the cells, at least not at the point in the game that I'm at. But yeah, so you have to make it to the end of that specific area, which they're not particularly long. I think they get longer and longer as you progress through the story. Yeah, like those cells are crucial to what I think is probably the best part of the entire game, and it's how they handle your carryover items and things that you can, like your perks. You get the cells and then you can put them into any number of items, and you find those items by playing the levels and picking up blueprints, which are random drops off of enemies that allow you to craft those items.
So I can then I can start any run with a weapon that I have blueprints of, then?
Not technically, no. You start with this crappy ass sword, and you can earn a perk that allows you to get a random weapon drop at the start that is one of your higher, leveled weapons that you've accrued from pooling your cells into these different items. Yeah, it's a really cool mechanic though. Like, the thing that I hated most about Rogue Legacy, aside from the fighting mechanics themselves being a little too floaty and a little too simple, is that at the very beginning of the game you have to spend all of your gold, and you want to pay close attention to how you're spending it. You want to be frugal, or you want to blow it all in one specific item, but you'll always have remnant gold that just gets thrown out before you start your match. And I find that so infuriating.
That is kind of shitty,
yeah. They do it on purpose, but it's a piss off. And so, what they do is you still have to spend all of your cells, but you don't have throwaway cells between stages. You have this guy, this NPC you talk to. He opens up his little closet of treasures, and then you can just throw in, say you want to put 5 cells into one thing that you need to accrue 15 cells to get, and then put the remaining 8 cells that you got into something else. You can do that. You can put 19 cells into something that has 35 cells needed, and then that'll stay that way as you progress in the game.
That's fucking great.
I love that. It feels like you're actually making progress every time you die, and that's one of the hardest things I think about roguelikes, is making it feel like they're not wasting your time with the insane difficulty. Because let's face it, all roguelikes right off the bat are really difficult.
Oh yeah. You're making war with attrition. You're accepting the fact that you're going to fail the first few times.
You inevitably will die lots. You will have to learn from those mistakes, and that's what a roguelike is good at. It's teaching you how to get better at the game, not by acquiring items to make your character better, but to actually get better at being, fighting enemies and reading their moves, which is something I'll talk about with Flinthook later, but I think it's where it suffers. But Dead Cells, man, for an early access game, I'm really floored. I personally, I've made it to one official boss, and then the sort of mini boss that you have to fight pretty early on.
Only one boss? Wow.
Dude, it's crazy. I find it incredibly difficult, but I've been balancing my time, through a multitude of games, and they're all kind of roguelikes right now. So this one, I've only played maybe 4 or 5 hours of it. I haven't really dove so deep into it, but I love the weapons that you can get. You can pick up swords that everything does some sort of status damage, or gives you some sort of critical bonus on a third strike of a consecutive attack. There's these nice little perks that come with everything you pick up, and as you go through the game, you can come across there's an NPC that will sell you a multitude of items if you've got enough gold, and so you can pick up grenades, You can pick up shield. You can pick up more swords, but like it's always random, just like every roguelike that I've played and liked. And it definitely comes at a cost. Like they usually tend to be pretty expensive. But the weapons themselves level up as you progress, and not to say that you personally can level up your sword. If you make it to like the next area from the very start of the game, you'll be able to buy or find a level 3 sword of the same kind that you're carrying. And sometimes they come from enemy drops, sometimes they're hidden behind like locked doors that you have to pay for, and sometimes they're just in the shop. But yeah, there's quite a multitude of amazing weapons, and I haven't even come across that many blueprints yet to say for sure how many there are.
So for most of the videos I've seen, the amount of shit that you can just pick up and use is really, really unique. Like I've seen stuff like some guy got boots that leave behind a trail of fire as he runs around. Some other guy got like an electric whip that like homes in on shit. Another guy bought like a turret that actually just like fires arrows at people.
Turrets are great.
So what I'm getting from this is like, this is really like, the best way to describe it, I think, at this stage would be like, okay, if you liked Rogue Legacy, you're going to love this game, because everything that was basically bad and boring about Rogue Legacy, like the weapons, the controls, like the magic, like it sucked. Like you got like what, like 5 magic spells? It's like a floating thing, like an ice ball, like the most generic, like piss poor level shit. But in this game, it's like they actually had access to just go nuts. And you know, every time I think I see an update, they've added something new and crazy to the game, and the combat just looks so fluid and so enjoyable that it's unlike a lot of other rogue games where you feel kind of like you're almost fighting against the game because you're in control of a character that isn't like superhuman. You're meant to feel like a poor like piece of shit who can only swing this sword this many times, and you're weighed down by the weight of this thing because you're just a puny, like, just nothing, you know. But with this game, it seems like you have a lot of agency, and you're actually this super powered avatar that can level up and get some amazing shit to get through the game.
Oh yeah. It's really cool, and as you beat the bosses, you earn runes which allow you to open up new areas, as I was mentioning earlier, which, like, right off the very beginning, you kind of have this, like, precursor hub stage where, like, there are a bunch of enemies, but by using these runes that you acquire, you can skip an entire section of it to go basically cutting out an entire stage in between what you would normally, like, where you started in the first place. It really doesn't change too much. Like, I think there's still value in going through, like, stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 opposed to going from stage 1 to stage 3, but there are other areas that you can gain access to, which is just a really nice little feature that's like a good throwback to classic games, like Mario 3.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, like, you are pretty limited in what you can carry. Like, you have a primary and a secondary weapon, and then you have 2 essentially special weapons.
Yeah.
And so you can pick up pretty much any mix of anything. Like, you're not limited to sword and bow or sword and shield. You could do 2 swords, or you could do two shields if you wanted to. You could do 2 different types of grenades, or, you know, the combinations are endless and excellent. But I do like the limitation because I found that this is one of the first games that's really, aside from Enter the Gungeon, that has taught me that, like, you know, just move on to a new preset or new layout. Like, don't be stuck in the same 2 weapons the whole game, because you're going to come across, like, special grenade that isn't part of your fix, the things that you're comfortable with. but it might be better than what you have on you at any given moment. Like, you never know. Like, there's merit in every weapon, which I find really fascinating, because I know I've played way too many games where it's like, well, I'm gonna pick a one-handed fighter because I know I can carry two swords and I can just basically blaze attacks through the whole game. Or like, I know I feel like with a game like, say, Skyrim, I get locked into a preset and I never change from it. But with this, it's like, I just want it all. Just give it to me. I'll try it out, and if I can afford it in the game, I'll spend that money, and I will. I don't know. I love it. It's been a real blast. And as I mentioned, I think in our last podcast, I'm pretty new to the Metroidvania world, so getting used to the layout of the world is kind of cool to me. Like, in this game, it's random, so you come across a lot of endless hallways, or empty hallways rather. But yeah, it's cool. They did a good job of retaining what I think works about a Metroidvania, and putting it into a roguelike structure. So kudos to Motion Twin. I hope they polish it up, get it on Switch, get it everywhere else. I do think that if you were like in debate over whether or not you should get it for Steam, just do it, man.
I should just do it.
Like $17? It's like, oh, it's so worth it. And like, I would gladly spend the extra $17 to get it again on the Switch down the line, too, because that'll be a great portable
That's
game.
The worst part about having a Switch is like, oh, do I want to get this for PC, or do I want to
wait
6 months to play it on the Switch? It's
we don't know when any of this stuff is coming out on the
Exactly,
Switch.
it's ruined me because I want the comfort of knowing, like, oh, now that I got it on the Switch, I can take this with me everywhere. But you know what? This seems like the kind of game where I could play it through all the way on PC, and then I'd easily have just as much fun playing it again, because the choices and the pickups and the way I'm making progress is going to change on a second run through, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's how I'll rationalize my purchase, right?
yeah, absolutely. I think, like, oh man, indie publishers and developers should get a little more bonus on people like you and me. Like, it's so easy to just like you said, 2 sandwiches pretty much. Just a couple sandwiches.
Just a couple.
You're gonna have 2 more sandwiches by the time it comes out on the Switch.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right.
what's the difference?
And sometimes it's good to not eat that many sandwiches, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't want to be a gross fat fuck who eats sandwiches all day, right?
Right.
That's how I see it, yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to know about it? Because, like, this game is fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
But I am bouncing between it. Like, oh man.
I guess I had a question. You might have answered this, and maybe I wasn't in understanding of it. But so any weapon that you pick up during this game, it's possible to get the blueprint for that weapon?
Yeah, actually, that's more often than not how you're gonna find the weapon in the first place. So, like, you start off with the crappy sword, but then you very quickly pick up a few blueprints, and then you die, and then the next run you have access to purchase those with the cells you just got, and it functions very well. Like, you can't just come across a weapon until you've discovered its blueprint first. But then, like, I noticed, and I'm kind of disappointed, but the way that the structure and purchasing is, like, if you don't purchase enough of the a variety of items, you're not going to unlock these other new items that you might be able to purchase.
Yeah.
So, I was very happy with the first items that I was picking up, and I was getting them in constant rotation because I only had discovered those items. So I was getting, like, this twin swords or whatever, and those work really well in the game because they offer the third hit to be a critical hit. But as I said earlier, I discovered that the real merit of this game is the diversity in weapons and the fact that it feels good to just constantly be picking up new ones and throwing together a new preset and just moving forward. Because it's fun. That weapon setup works really well.
From what I've seen just on first take videos, even that crappy little sword that you start out with is totally viable because I've seen people
Oh, sure.
blazing through the game, and I think that's a testament to how great it looks like it controls. Like unlike other rogue-like games that I've played, where it feels like you're operating a tank covered in molasses, like rolling through shit. This one looks very quick, very clean. It reminds me of a Castlevania game, which is also really good.
Yeah, I should mention that gameplay is so fluid. Like, the dodge roll is one of the best things that has been of frequent use in video games, because it makes it feel like you have a fair fight. You don't have a dodge roll in the early Mega Man games, and it feels cheap because enemies can just hit you. It's almost like going to an arcade knowing that you're gonna die at least once fighting any character in this game, because the game forces you to die at some point. It feels like that, but like Dead Cells doesn't have that. With the dodge roll, it feels like you can evade any attack that comes at you. Feels like a fair fight every time. And I'm one of those people who's gotta kill everything on the screen.
Why not? That's what they're there for, to take out your aggression on. Yeah.
But I never really thought about the speedrun aspect of just like ignore them, dodge roll past them. Like, you don't need that to upgrade from that first sword if you're not going to, like, have to deal with those enemies as much. So that's an interesting thing I've never thought about.
That's totally viable in games like Bloodborne, where you almost have to run past certain sections because you will be overwhelmed by a bunch of celestial monsters that are bigger than you.
See, now that would just annoy me, to have like just this endless deluge of monsters. I like finding a nice safe zone and sitting there for a few.
There are no safe zones in Bloodborne.
I know, there are no safe zones in Bloodborne. Well, that's a game that I have promised my friends I'll get to, and I eventually will.
It's tough. I mean, it's not impossible. I didn't really find it frustrating or anything when I played it, but it's definitely the kind of game where the most frustrating thing is if I get to a boss and then you die and then you have to go all the way back to where that boss is. That was the one thing that I really disliked about that game. And there was a point where I was getting to the boss and then I'd die because it would be like the first or second time I tried fighting it, and my blood was boiling, the adrenaline was up. I wanted a second chance immediately, but no, now you gotta go through all this bullshit again, and, God forbid you forget where exactly in this big giant forest that boss is. And
I do hate that so much. Yeah. That's frustrating.
I think that's a big flaw on the game for me. Like, that's preventing it from me rating it higher, and it's a little flaw, and some people can get over it, especially if you know how to beat the boss on the first try, I guess. But I always hated that, because then the mystique kind of wears off when you're going through the same area for like the 20th time or something. Yeah. But that's fun for you.
Yep, it's brutal. And I think actually the main reason I haven't gotten around to playing it is because now we're like, while I can't say that I've experienced Bloodborne specifically, and I know it's got its own aesthetic and everything, I'm seeing games that are more up my alley in terms of aesthetic that actually cater to the same audience. Like, their goal is to make like a pixel art version of a Souls-like in a way, and like that to me is like, gimme. I will definitely play your Souls-like if it's got that nice little retro touch to it.
There was something like that came out last year it was kind of a 2D version of Dark Souls, but I forgot what it's called. I had it. I bought it for PS4, and the game is so ugly and just like cumbersome.
Oh, I couldn't do that. That's for sure.
It was just disgusting looking, and I got a fairly decent chunk of it out of the way, but there came a time when I was just like, well, not only does this look like shit still, but the controls are not that great, and it's just too clunky. It's not really a solid pickup for me. And I wish I could fucking remember what it was called. Oh, man.
Well, let me tell you that you don't have to worry about that crappy little game because about like maybe 6-8 months ago, I demoed a game called Unworthy, which is a 2D Dark Souls, Souls-like, but for all intents and purposes is pretty true to form in aesthetic and gameplay. It is so cool. It is all black and white with like red, definitely gray,
Unworthy.
of course, but
I'm gonna have to look that up. I've never heard of that one.
It's really cool. Yeah, Unworthy. I've been following the developer for a while. He's still long in the works of it. Maybe we'll see it next year, maybe not. But it's really cool, and what I've played of it is really, really excellent too. Yeah. But yeah, look no further because that is definitely, wait a little while, but you'll have that 2D Dark Souls that you wanted.
Salt and Sanctuary was the name of the game that I played.
Oh, yeah. That actually popped up in my Steam the other day, and I threw it in my wish list, but I haven't really looked at it much. And I've been hearing a lot about it through like other news channels lately.
I think you should stick to Dead Cells. I think that looks a lot better, honestly.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm good on that. There are too many roguelikes out there right now, and like too many
roguelikes, Souls-likes.
It's killing me.
Get a fucking moratorium on the term Souls-like. I'm sure I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but whatever From Software is cooking up, it's definitely not Bloodborne 2. I hope it's not another Souls game. I hope it's like Cat Simulator or some shit.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be great.
Give us something totally weird and different.
Cat Simulator from Software.
You could even make something that people will hate you for, but they won't hate you forever because you'll just come out with something else that they like shortly after. Like, I don't know.
I hope
they're doing a good job, but
they make a game where you play as a chair, and it's just an introspective game about people who sit on you, and you're just dreaming of a better life. And the chair's idea of a good time is like driving a sports car, but then at the end of the day you're still a chair and you have to live with that. You're just a chair, The Sitting, that's what it's called. From Software presents The Sitting. It's going to be at E3, guys, trust me. The Sitting.
The Sitting.
So yeah, what if you could change into a chair though, Ben?
Oh, dude.
that little inflection, like, oh, dude, like you've been waiting to tell me like all these things.
I pretty much am a chair with I'm sinking to my couch every day.
A chair.
Yeah, I would totally do it. Venue pending, of course, but yeah, and yeah, it all comes down to whose ass is sitting.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Wow, I did not think about that. It could be a good ass, could be a great ass, could be a horrible ass. Yeah.
Chair sim would be definitely something that people would be pining for right now. So,
Chair Simulator. Well, you know what? Chair Simulator is out. It's alive and well, and it's in a game called Prey.
Boy!
Prey's original title was Chair Simulator 2017, but I think they changed it once Bethesda came along and said, "Hey, we've got this intellectual property called Prey laying around. Can you do something with it?" But we don't want it to be about Native Americans and aliens anymore. We want you to put your Chair Simulator and attach this to this IP name. And they were like, oh, all right, great. So Chair Simulator is now Prey. All right, fine. It's cool with us.
It is crazy how that game, changed so drastically from being originally a totally different game to being a game that's all about chair simulation.
This game is a cross between everything Arcane has learned in their entire history with stuff like Metroid Prime, System Shock, Alien, The Thing. John Carpenter actually tweeted out that he fucking loves this game, which is big praise coming from that guy.
So dope.
That was awesome.
So great. Yeah.
I love John Carpenter.
Don't we all?
Yeah, everyone should love John Carpenter. He's been through a lot.
I hope so.
That man's heart has been broken too many times.
Oh, poor guy.
Poor guy.
So Prey.
Prey
is good.
What do you know about Prey? How much do you know about Prey?
I definitely played the hour-long demo that was definitely more than an hour for me.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't play through it all. I actually got to a point where I was just like, I'm gonna stop because if I want, I will buy this game. But I know that my expectations of the game changed, not only while I was playing it, but shortly after. But I also didn't quite make it to a spot where I could mimic things, which seemed like, to me, one of the biggest sells of the game.
You don't get to in the demo,
start.
yeah.
Oh, you don't? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Then I didn't miss anything there. Good.
So, basically, it's like most arcane games, right? It continues a tradition of having a big skill tree, a large vocabulary of powers, world building basically through documents and audio logs, kind of a central freewheeling hub that you can move around in. There's a lot of dark secrets and continuous espionage throughout the whole storyline, so what things seem to be are actually something else, and then even that is not really the truth, and then the truth is a half-truth, and then it gets quartered, and now that you got quarter truths, and then it's like a pizza pie of truths, and you just gotta take a slice and hope it's the satisfying truth, who knows. The ways that you can basically conquer each objective is just as rich as it was in games like Dishonored 2. So the power set here is not only in kind of a Half-Life 2 sort of way, where you have like military and medical skills, stuff to bolster your gunplay, which is not as big a deal in this game as you think it would be. There's only really like a pistol and a shotgun, and then you also have some other utility tools here and there.
Yeah.
I mean, the main draw is the fact that you get these alien Typhon powers. So the draw of the game is these aliens that you're researching, the Typhon, can mimic like almost any object, at least at first. Like the smaller Typhon can mimic like a desk or a chair or a cup or something. And sometimes you'll go in a game what the fuck am I talking about? You'll go in a room. we're through the looking glass here. You'll go in a game. You'll go into a room and you'll see like they'll scatter, and then maybe you'll see like a few cups tip over, and you'll think, oh my god, is like one of those cups is like one of the fucking aliens, right? And for the first like few hours of the game, you're pretty much on edge, and you've got this phobia of every single inanimate object that you come across.
You want to know?
Yeah.
Want to know what I did? I shot everything.
You shot everything? I hit everything. I hit everything.
I saw a chair and I was like, I don't know about this chair. I'm gonna knock it around until I find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite parts of that beginning. But I did feel that repetition of, God, there's so many of these guys. Are there any other types of enemies? And yeah, I mean, I've seen some photos, but I haven't really dug too deep, because I definitely will be playing this game for sure.
That's a valid criticism. Yeah.
Yeah. It was troublesome, but I feel like the game was just gorgeous. Oh man, the architecture in that station is so cool, and overall it has an aesthetic that is really the main reason why I got into the BioShock series in the first place.
Yeah.
It's got that very Art Deco. I know at first I felt like I didn't know if I was in the future or the past. I didn't know where I was. But yeah, Prey just looks really nice. Anyway, I'll stop derailing.
Yeah,
here.
The graphics are really nice. It's got kind of the same visual style as Dishonored does, where things are accentuated a little bit, kind of in a caricature style. And the station itself looks fantastic, and it runs very smooth. Like it's a very silky 30 frames per second. It doesn't hiccup as easily as some of their other games do, or any other games do that are 30 frames these days. So yeah, like I said, one of the main draws is this like terrifying mystical arsenal you have, where you're drawing your power from this void of unknown alien energies. And the thing is, you work for a company that specializes in this kind of medicinal aid that grants you abilities, like the ability to just like play piano. You just now have the knowledge to play piano. But in this case, now you have elemental attunements, or you have the power to morph into a coffee cup and roll into an area that you previously could never reach. Or you can summon a doppelganger to fight for you, kind of clone yourself, unleash telekinetic waves. There's a great deal of things that you can put into your bloodstream, but of course there is a drawback, because then as you start to fill yourself up with this alien goop, then the security systems of this space station will begin to recognize you as the enemy now, and now you can't
Oh shit.
you can't take the advantage of setting up and freely walking around these turrets, which are a great help to you, and now you have to be even more careful around them than you previously were.
Oh no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
So that slowly begins to take hold of you, and there's this great theme of abuse and disgust with what you're becoming in this game, especially with other people who are on the space station. When you go through their audio logs, there's a lot of world building just through text and documents and documentaries that they've done, and there's this sense of unease about the work you're doing, but there's also this greater flaw in the research that's taking place here, and the fact that you are kind of your own test subject is probably the most unnerving part of it all, because it opens up a lot of questions about, like, how much work do I have to put in to actually justify what I'm doing, despite all these horrible things that are happening here. You know, how can I justify this to myself? And I began to kind of draw parallels between that and maybe, say, like an addict of anything, maybe an alcoholic. Like, how much more is too much? How much of this alien energy can I rightfully pump into myself before I think I've lost all of my humanity? You know, how much of it is just counting as abuse at this point, just to get me through this objective, just to get me through this day, this one last objective, just one more push, just one more of these medical tubes I'm just going to shove into my skull. There's this greater pervasive sense that you shouldn't have to risk things like the station turning against you, but at the same time you want those powers. You want to feel good. You want to feel good about playing through this game and making it easier on yourself. And to me, that spoke volumes about how the developers wanted you to see getting through the game easier, because it is easier to turn into a cup and just roll under this thing, or it is easier to just have the ability to create fireballs or a telekinetic blast and destroy some of the larger enemies in this game. You can totally viably go through the game with just human abilities without all of the Typhon additives, and it probably won't be as fun. But that's like, I mean, I don't want to get into too much of this shit, but that would be like saying, all right, well, you can just sit in a corner by the party. You don't get to have any beer. You don't get to have any fun. You know, like. But
I actually was following along with somebody who chose to not use any of those mods.
Yeah.
And I was kind of blown away that you can even do that.
You can, yeah. You can.
That's so crazy.
So there's human, and then there's just like Typhon only kind of play.
Yeah, that's so wild. But I don't know. I just that's a great concept, because like BioShock has you injecting yourself with what was it called?
They were salts in Infinite, I think they were called. They were salts in Infinite.
Yeah.
I forgot what they were called in the other games.
I know, I'm totally blanking. Which is so dumb, because that was one of my favorite franchises early on. I just thought maybe there was some sort of imperative nature to, you have to do these things, because otherwise it's going to become almost impossible for you to beat the game later on. But that didn't seem to be the case. Just kind of leads you to alternate routes, different ways that you can complete the game, which furthers like I think a really good theme of this year, which is the open nature of video games. It's cool.
In this game, you can destroy the person who is giving you directions on how to complete your objectives. So,
nice.
So right off the bat, you can just take a shotgun to this person, and now you're not going to get directions anymore. So you can do what you want and really open it up.
I love that.
But of course, you don't have to listen to that entity in the first place. And there's a lot of sequence breaking. Actually, there's a lot of extra objectives that will open up more of the station or open up more options to you. And more often than not, I found myself going off the path and finding this completely new area that I wouldn't have gone in maybe at all, like during my playthrough, and maybe I'd find something that I wasn't supposed to at that juncture. And this is especially true because you're able to break the game just with one of your weapons, which is the glue gun, which kind of reminds me of a weapon you might have gotten in Half-Life or something. It's not quite like the gravity gun, but it has the same effect where it's a weapon, it's a tool that completely changes how you approach the game and how you approach puzzles and problems. Because with the gravity gun in Half-Life, suddenly you figured out, okay, I don't have to waste ammo. I can use this and pick up things like buzzsaw and detritus and throw that at enemies. I can get things from a distance. This changes everything. Like, now I can achieve to be so much more than just a guy who's taking a shotgun to people's heads. So with the glue gun, I mean, primarily you use it to kind of freeze Typhon and slow them down, especially the little ones. So if you know something is not a coffee cup and is actually a Typhon, you can just trap it like in this glue kind of material and it won't bother you. But
nice.
You can also use it to create platforms, and that makes a huge difference because I was able to use this to kind of sequence break across a bridge that did not lower for me because I didn't have a good hack skill. So I couldn't hack this bridge down. So I created a platform, a series really of glue platforms, and I jumped across this bridge that I otherwise couldn't get across. And I pretty much achieved this secret ending extremely early, like way earlier. Like we're talking like 20 or 15 hours earlier than normally I would have been handed the keys to achieve this kind of ending. And I wasn't supposed to get it this early. And I did, just through ingenuity and smart placement of those glue platforms. So you can
That's awesome.
completely break the game by getting to places that you definitely shouldn't be able to reach at certain points in time. And sometimes it's almost required to use the glue gun to go to certain places. So it's like a machination that serves both as like a halting containment, but it's also a constructor of platforms you can climb upon to almost reach anything. So,
yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It is.
I do like that is a I don't know, more common trait in games now. I don't know. It's just it's cool. Like, developers really enjoy when you found a way that to break their system.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just left it open so that you could do that. Like, there's no way of knowing, but that's excellent. Like, I love hearing things like that. So it makes unique experiences in games.
That's what reminded me of the original Super Metroid game, where you could legit sequence break, and some of it was planned, some of it maybe not. And I feel like with this game, they pretty much knew what they were doing in a lot of instances, though there are a lot of speedrunners who definitely found some creative ways to use those platforms even earlier on that I probably haven't even figured out. But yeah, that's just one of many examples of how to approach this game, especially because the station is always kind of open to you, and you'll be able to find ways to get around just on your own, especially because in this game, the element of fast travel is within, I think, maybe 6 or 7 airlocks that lead outside the station. So you're just floating out in space aside this gigantic station, and you can just float from airlock to airlock.
Oh man,
it's really nuts. Like, the zero-G gameplay is actually really, I don't know if I should say groundbreaking, but I've never seen anything like that used so tactfully.
Would you play this game if it was in VR?
Absolutely. It would be nuts, but I don't think they're going to do that.
No, they're definitely not.
I don't think they're going to do that.
Bethesda's not that invested.
I will say that the narrative, like I said, it's mostly built upon what you find in the world, so you're kind of, it's what you put into it, and what am I trying to say? You get what you put into it, basically. Like, the amount of information that you glean and the stories that you find on this station really humanize what's going on here, especially later on. It gets really, really hairy. But it's mostly a mission not just of your own survival, but you're also discovering and kind of rediscovering who you are, because there's an element of paranoia about how much time has passed. You know, who am I really? Am I the same person I was when I woke up on that day again and again and again? Because it's a convenient way to create a mystery, but you also want to ask more questions, and you want to find the answers to those questions, because there's an element of you want to, I think, rediscover who you were, but you also have to put that in conjunction with who you're becoming in the course of this story, because depending on what you do during the game, you might end up a totally different version of the protagonist, Morgan Yu, than he was according to his journals and his documentation. And you find a lot of fucked up shit that the scientists were doing on this space station. And you might even find that you don't like who you were before you started these experiments and losing your memory. There's a lot of positives and negatives there. And again, depending on what you achieve during your playthrough, you might come out of it just saying, well, you know, I did nothing wrong. Like, I'm fine, whatever. I survived an alien incident and fuck everything else. But you might come out of it saying, God, I did this and I did this. I could have done this better. I definitely redeemed myself with this. But this thing was just absolutely horrific. You know, what kind of person was I before I started losing my memory? So there's a duality right there. And even your companions say, like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, you were a different person back then. But they also might tell you, you're still the same asshole, or you're still the same brilliant genius. Like, you know, are they telling you what you want to hear, or are you just trying to avoid some kind of unpleasant truth? So you're stalked not only by your memory, but you're also stalked by a literal nightmare who is a bit of a representation of your transformation, because the more Typhon material you ingest in this game, the greater the threat of this nemesis creature is in this game. It's something called the Nightmare. It's like 20 feet tall, and it will randomly appear on certain levels.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's humongous, and it's very tough to kill. It can kill you in like one shot, pretty much.
Oh, God.
And the countdown begins, and you get a new pervading quest that says, evade the Nightmare. And you have to avoid it for at least like 2 to 3 minutes before it gives up and kind of wanders off. But there are some tense moments where you'll walk in to a room thinking, okay, here's the exit, I'm safe, and you'll see the Nightmare just kind of lurking off in the distance. And he often shows up, of course, when you don't want to see him. So it's very scary, and it's just another kind of metaphor about the kind of abuse that you're putting yourself through and the ghost of your past catching up to you. So there's a lot of mind fuckery in this game, and there's a lot of imaginative ways they decided to put this into perspective for you, as far as, you know, your past self versus your present self versus what's in store for the future. You know, what kind of person are you going to be if you make it out of here? You know, do you want to save these people? Do you even want to pretend like they have a chance? Do you have a chance at all? There's a lot of pervading questions that are being raised, and even as I get to the end of the game, which I'm sorry I can't comment on the ending, I haven't made it that far, but just the themes that keep cropping up about your sense of self and your responsibility, not just to yourself, but the safety of all these people that work under you. It kind of spreads like this blossom at first, and it's only involving maybe just mimicry and alien life forms, but then you have to ask yourself, well, maybe I'm the most alien thing on here, because I don't even know who I am. You know, these aliens, they have a sense of purpose. These scientists who work with me, they have their purpose, but you can't even figure out from the beginning what your purpose on this station is, and it's really up to you by the end of the game what was your purpose in this entire debacle. So that's pretty much Prey for you. It's basically a fine mix of System Shock, Half-Life, I'd say, in some instances, and really everything that Arcane has learned through the course of their career. I wouldn't say it's the most combat-heavy game. You're definitely not as lithe and ninja-esque as you were in the Dishonored games. It's nowhere near that. You don't have that kind of godlike power, and you will spend a lot of the time trying to survive. I mean, by the end of the game, you'll probably be powerful enough to take on most enemies, especially if you upgrade things like your shotgun. But it can get frustrating at times, and the enemies are definitely very, very powerful. You have to be careful, and you have to be smart about every single encounter, because they can and they will surround you and overwhelm you every time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think what else I could say. I think that's pretty much Prey in a nutshell. It's basically a game that's very much in the Metroidvania kind of spirit and centers around your idea, the idea of self and paranoia and just everything being temporary, I guess.
Man, I had no idea Prey was so deep.
It can get deep. It can get as deep as you want it to be, I guess, depending on how far you let yourself go down the hole.
Yeah, I guess I just figured that there was a little bit more of a strict narrative. Like, I know that you can definitely get more details by looking through emails, and I figured maybe by interacting with some people you might open up some things, but I don't know. I'm still gonna get it. It sounds like really great. I'm speechless.
I've probably waxed poetic about a lot of the things that I found interesting, but it really does do a lot to draw you into this world and keep you questioning just who you are and what you're doing here, especially if you take the time and effort to really go against the grain and do things that the game doesn't really tell you to do, especially if you defy the game at certain instances. And that's a big theme with BioShock too, being told to do things versus defying those orders. That's a huge theme in the original BioShock.
Oh yeah.
This is definitely born of System Shock and BioShock and all of those games, because that's pretty much Arcane's prime directive on their sleeves, is to make these immersive sims with all these ridiculous powers and all these mysterious narratives. It's just crazy.
Before I saw anything of the game, I expected that I wasn't going to enjoy it. But I don't know, I've only heard things that entice me, things that can relate to other games that I have played and enjoyed. So I think this is a good sounding experience.
It's definitely worth picking up, and it's not without its frustrating parts, especially as you're getting materials and scrounging for supplies. Sometimes you'll run short. I always manage to press ahead. I always manage to survive and come out of it like a champ.
Nice.
But it is definitely a difficult game in some instances where you're going, and anyone who is thinking about just giving up, just press through it. There are definitely a few instances, especially in 0G, when you're against an enemy that flies around in 0G and is incredibly fucking annoying. It sucks. I'm not gonna lie. It really fucking sucks. I was really fucking angry. But it only happens to a fault maybe 2 or 3 times, and after that you're pretty much good. You just have to analyze the enemies, because you can later on with one of your psychoscope items, and you quickly learn about what's a weakness, what can I exploit about them. You'll quickly get all the data you need about that. It's probably going to be tougher if you don't use Typhon powers, but you do get a few neat items like EMP grenades help, and then there's this one grenade called a recycler that turns anything small enough into garbage. So there are a lot of enemies you can just throw this grenade at them and they turn into garbage, which is awesome.
Oh my
God.
God.
Fucking love it. It's great. There was a document around those grenades that detailed the story about a guy who accidentally let a recycler grenade, too close to himself when it went off, and his leg turned into metal and garbage. So now he's he's like an amputee. Like, it's fucked up.
That's crazy.
There's a lot of stuff like that, but it's something else. I'd recommend people try the demo and watch some gameplay. Definitely.
Definitely.
It's got some good reviews and it's got some bad ones, and I think it might be a little divisive, probably more divisive than Dishonored was, because I think most people, if you like that kind of game, you're going to love Dishonored, and there's no ways around it. This one, just the overall pace and the way you get around and the combat being a little difficult not as freewheeling and wild as Dishonored might put people off, and that's fine. But if you like this kind of game, in any of the games that I've described that are influences on it, then I think you'll love the experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Prey is a good game. Go get it.
Prey's good. Yeah, I like it.
Check it out. So let me ask you this real quick. In Prey, is there some sort of grappling hook or...
No. It would have been improved. It would have been improved. Any game, in my opinion, can be improved with a grappling hook. That is a fact. That is a solid goddamn fact.
Do you want to learn about a game that is all about moving around with the grappling hook?
That sounds like shit, Ben, and I don't want you to talk about it.
Oh, bummer. What a shame.
But you know what?
Yeah, let's talk grappling.
Grappling.
Best grappling hooks in games.
Best grappling hooks.
I don't know when the first one ever came out, but the hook shot in Link to the Past had saved my ass, but I have to say it was kind of much better in 3D when they brought it into Ocarina of Time.
Bionic Commando, I think, was a big one.
Oh, man, you got it right there. I was thinking
yeah.
about that one the other day, actually. No, I am, of course, making a terrible segue into Flinthook, which is an excellent, excellent game. This game looks so good. I've seen a lot of really good looking games this year. I haven't seen a lot of really, really good looking pixel art games, specifically pixel art. This is premium. I gotta tell you, man.
Premium grade meat right here.
Looks so good. The characters are like somewhere between cute and grotesque at times. Like your enemies look cool or gruesome. Flinthook. So let me tell you about a little guy named Flinthook.
His name is Flinthook too.
Yeah, that's actually the character's name is Flinthook. His weapon is called the Quick Hook, which is the hook shot. It is your primary method of moving around the stage faster, or manipulating through obstacles or enemies. There are these little diamond-shaped things that you have to shoot your hook at. Catch onto it, you zip around. It feels really good to zip around on a hook shot, I gotta say. You actually have to use it to get from one screen to the next screen because they're hooked together by tubes that have the little hooks on the end that you shoot your hook shot at.
Are those the only things you can climb? Is just those designated, those little tube things?
With the hook shot, yes, but you do use it against enemies, and your character is agile and mobile in other ways as well. In fact, before I saw the game officially, I'd only seen really a few screenshots, and it was just like people hovering in the air, and I thought, oh man, is this a game where the goal is to never touch the ground, because that would be really hard. But no, you have to do a little cross platforming type situation. You can wall bounce. You can't double jump, but I think you can unlock a higher jump later on. But yeah, man, I gotta say, so I brought 2 roguelikes to the table, and it's kind of like a battle of the roguelikes, and it really depends on what kind of game you like. They're both equally good. One's finished and one isn't, so that wouldn't be very fair to say, but they're both really good. But Flinthook has more of an aesthetic and a flow that I appreciate, whereas I think Dead Cells has more of that classic gamer. I didn't play Castlevania and I didn't play Metroid when I was a kid. I didn't play them until I became much later on. But most of the people I know did, and so I think Dead Cells speaks to those people. Flinthook speaks to somebody. I can't even really compare it to Mega Man in any capacity because it's so...
It's more frenetic, I guess. It's faster paced, maybe.
Yeah, it's Okay, so that's something that's tripped me up a lot. It's made to feel like a game that you should play fast, and you might want to play fast just because it feels good to zip around. But it's incredibly important to be as thoughtful with your actions as possible because the game, unlike most other roguelikes, feels incredibly unfair at times because a large majority of where you're going to lose your health isn't actually from getting hit by enemies. It's from a combination of either, having an enemy in the same room as a weird obstacle, or just the layout of obstacles sometimes can feel very unfair. Um, I wouldn't say that they are. I think that, you know, the better I've gotten at it, the more comfortable I feel playing certain levels, and I still feel like I get to a certain point where I just feel like, oh, this game's just screwing me over left and right. But really, it's I've gotten tired of playing it uh, at that point. And it's a long, like every time you play it, could be anywhere from like a half hour to an hour and a half of just trying to string together and get through this the game system, which I should probably break into a little bit.
Yeah, what are the levels
So
like? Like, how is it broken up? Like, for the worlds or things?
yeah, okay. So uh, the game is set up in uh, you're a pirate. Your goal is to loot ships and hunt bounty heads, and you are basically traveling from ship to ship, and you kind of like floating in space. These ships are, as far as I can tell, flying in space, and they all look like pirate ships, and they're all crazy. But each bounty head will have a certain number of levels that you need to beat in order to reach that boss. And the levels get progressively harder, but you get to choose up to about 3 levels. Like, okay, I got to figure out if I can break this down. Um,
You're given like what a selection of like say, just for example, you're given like a selection of maybe 6 levels, but you only have to beat any 4 of those 6 to unlock the ultimate
Kinda.
one.
Yes, that's essentially how it works, but you
Okay.
don't know what you're gonna. It's every time it's random, right?
Oh shit. Okay.
So you start. Say you want to fight this one bounty head. You wanna achieve the first guy. You have to beat 3 stages. Now you get to the first stage selection screen. You could choose between 3 different ships, and they'll tell you a little hint about what might be on that ship, or what is on that ship. And it could tell you anything from like a special item that you need to not need to like special collectible item that you want to pick up, or there could be a certain type of enemy room, like they call them, like battalion, or you might come across like they call it a laser lattice, which is just a room swarmed with lasers that you have to avoid getting hit in. But yeah, it'll tell you either like something, it'll either warn you about something or hint at like shops or things that you might find in that place. And each world is set up in a way like Metroidvanias, in that they're levels, stages, or oh my god, rooms that chain together, just like how Metroid would. But you just sort of you don't really come across that many dead ends because it's just like you're on a room to room basis. You could see which uh, how many options you have to go to the next area. You rarely have to backtrack in this game, and in fact, I strongly suggest against it, depending on the levels, because it can get real intense. But yeah, so you get to choose one of 3 ships, and they'll tell you like how difficult it is with the little number indicator next to a skull, and then they'll tell you something about that ship, either a room or uh, like an enemy that could be there. And then it gets progressively harder as you beat that ship. You got to go to the next one, and each time what you're doing is you're collecting these gems at the end of each ship. You fight a mini boss, and then after that you open a chest that gives you a gem, that you feed to your uh, very animated compass that is like a little ball of goo inside of a compass box.
What the
Uh,
heck?
yeah, this is crazy, dude. So you have to get these gems to feed to this thing that will tell you where the boss is, where the bounty head is. It's essentially like, I just feel like I overcomplicatedly explained, basically just beating 3 stages to get to where that boss is. But the compass is like an integral part. It's like essentially your partner. Like, he will tell you where to go, but you have to, beat these 3 mini bosses, to get to that next step.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and like the animation for him is really nice. Yeah, the mini bosses are for the most part really easy, but the main bosses are incredibly difficult. But the thing I love about the main bosses is that um, it's a it's kind of like the Zelda thing where like that boss has a specific strategy that you want to try to achieve to beat him, but you can go about it a multitude of ways. Um, but usually they have like a thing that you have to like a defense that you have to take down, and then it leaves them open to an attack that you have to land. Um, and yeah, like the hardest part about that is balancing your use of hook shot, bouncing around, like trying to stay afloat, and then also trying to fire your gun at these various characters. Which I think I should get into next, like what Flinthook, what your
Yeah.
layout is. So you have your quick hook, you can wall jump, you have a blaster, and then you have what is called a chrono belt. Your blaster, they took the suggestion, which I think is incredible, but it can now, on Steam at least, be controlled with the right stick. But initially it was controlled the same as your D-pad, and yeah, I mean it's just like
It's
pretty
basic, yeah.
Yeah, it has a limited range that you can unlock perks to extend and so on and so forth. But your chrono belt, this is one of the coolest things in the game,
Chrono belt.
slows down time. It's you press left trigger and hold it, and as long as you're holding it, you will have essentially bullet time. But you do need to use it to get past certain barriers. You can use it to make it easier to evade certain enemies, but it has a limited amount of time that it can be used for at like once. It recharges rather quickly, kind of recharges about as long as it takes to use it. But it significantly enhances the flow of the game because it makes you feel kind of like Neo in the Matrix. Like you all of a sudden you can see where something is going to land and you can try to avoid it, but it's still difficult. It's all frantic bouncing around and a lot of seemingly erratic movements at times. Like I'm still really just getting the flow of quick hooking left and right, and starting to figure it out. But yeah, all in all, I've been finding it to be an incredibly fun game. This also has a lot of carryover perks, so each time you die, you don't actually lose anything. Like, there are 2 different types of currency. You will lose your gold that you can spend in each round to unlock perks during that round, but those perks are not permanent. They are exclusive to that round. Before each run, you could choose, just like in Hollow Knight, you've got a certain number of perk slots that you can fill, and each perk that you have unlocked in your various amount of gameplays that can be carried over has like a 1 to any number of perk slots that it will use up, and then you have to sort of create your loadout that way. Yeah, it's got a nice amount of things that can be unlocked. I feel like I barely scratched the surface, but each time you gain a level after doing a certain number of runs to gain experience from beating that run, you gain a level and then you unlock a pack which gives you a perk, maybe 2 perks in it. So I've so far made it to about level 30, which means I've opened at least 30 packs, which means I have at least 30 permanent perks that I can put on my character before each round, if my perk slots are left.
This sounds way more complex than I thought it was. I honestly thought it would be like some sort of like endless runner, but with grappling hook shit, and now like, it's got like so much more stuff that's going on. When you mentioned the Matrix effect, I was like, whoa, okay, didn't expect that.
I didn't know about that at all. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't know about that at all before I picked this game up, and then I'm like, whoa, I'm slowing down time now. Some crazy shit's going on. But yeah, as I talk about it, I realize there is a lot more to this game than I ever really realized. They did a really good job, but it is seemingly unfair and incredibly difficult. But it's a platformer's dream. If you love platforming, and that's the thing that you've kind of been missing in the roguelike world, is like, oh, well, I feel like I'm always fighting enemies, but I'm never just jumping from platform to platform. This is like that to a T. It's usually avoiding spikes or floating objects. Sometimes there are enemies that you can't even kill that are just like globs that float through the screen, and you can lead them around, but you don't want to get hit by them. But yeah, I mean, I've been loving this game, and the more and more I play it, the more and more I love it. Become very infatuated with it. I actually always look forward to sitting down at the PS4 now and popping on Flinthook for like 30 minutes to an hour, just like I did with Enter the Gungeon. So I do think it's a very strong roguelike. I have heard some arguments for it, against it rather being not very good in a roguelike way, but it would have been a very great narrative played game, like more structured. I don't know, I could go either way on that one.
I don't know. It sounds like it's perfect the way it is, because like honestly, from what you've described, there's a lot of high tense, high octane stuff going on. Like you're constantly swinging around, you're doing Matrix moves, you're getting perks. I don't see how some grand narrative would fit into the structure of this game, and I think it's probably for the best. Like, I'm a dude who's swinging. That's great. Like, that's all I need to do. That's all I need to know, you know? Like, that's my thing. And it should be enough that I have a grappling hook, the greatest invention in video game history. Right. And I'm using it to traverse everything, because like games like Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 more specifically, like most of that game sucks. Honestly, that game fucking sucks. But swinging around the city is fantastic. It feels good, you know? So
I wish that you had that kind of freedom in this game to just latch onto anything, but it would make it unfairly easy if you could just grip to every wall. Like you would avoid any danger any number of times. But yeah, it's it does work well, and I think a huge push for the game is that it is significantly about you learning how to manage like a multitude of abilities as one character, knowing when to use which ability, because that chrono belt can harm or help you. That the way that the blaster is set up can harm or help you, because when it's set up to the left stick, you're moving your character, but you're also moving your aim for where you're shooting at. So like if you have an enemy that's right in front of you, you don't want to be running at him, but you need to shoot at him. Obviously you could just let the stick go and fire at him, but you can actually lock yourself into position by holding another button, making it a little bit easier to aim. So if you got enemies up in the air, you can actually like plop yourself in one spot, not worry about falling down a pit or into these spikes, and fire up in any direction with the left stick. But I don't know, I'm just now really starting to get that figured out, because the way the button setup is so complicated in a way that it's simple. Each task is simple that each button produces, but the collective use of all of them, like I always forget that I have a secondary weapon. I never use my secondary weapon because I'm too busy blasting things and trying to avoid getting hit by them that I don't think about the fact that I could just throw a bomb, but that bomb becomes disposable and now is no longer, I've used my one bomb and that's it. So it's weird. It definitely has some flaws, but I don't really know. I don't know how to dig into those flaws. Like I mostly just find them in my frustrations by not being able to complete very much of the game after having played it for as many hours.
Are you close to beating it? Like anywhere near close to completing it?
No, okay. I mean I've beaten a boss. It has. I finally got to a point where like now I'm reaching the second boss almost every time I play him, but that hasn't been that many times. Like maybe twice. Like consistently got to the boss for the second zone. It's difficult. There are 7 different bosses that you can face apparently. I don't know if they're going to add anything on after that, but one of my favorite things that they did have in the game that they kind of took away from me. So Tribute, if you happen to be listening to us, please fix this.
Please.
They added in a challenge mode, and you can do a daily challenge or a weekly challenge.
Ooh.
That stage doesn't change, and in the first week or so of it being out, you could replay the daily challenge as many times as you want till you beat it. Now, if you fail on it once, you cannot play it again. And the thing that I liked about it is that it's a structured stage. It wasn't roguelike. Every time I played it and replayed it, it was the same stage.
Okay, I see.
I think I encountered a glitch, or I think that was part of the thing they didn't want, was that you would have the ability to redo the same level over and over again. But yeah, now you play it once. If you die, you're done. You don't get that daily challenge again. You have to wait till tomorrow for the next one.
Whoops.
And it could be, it's like Sudoku, daily Sudoku puzzles. It could be easy, it could be medium, or it could be incredibly difficult. So
take the good with the bad. And when you're done, you know you've had the facts of life.
Yeah. It's dude. It's a game, let me tell you. But yeah, did you have any questions about Flinthook?
Not so much. I think you've covered it.
Tried to be thorough with that one.
You've covered a lot of things that I didn't even know were relevant about the game, and I wasn't the least bit interested in it at first, honestly. But I think you've sold me on the concept and how many little extras are involved in simply swinging around. But then you've got all these other elements, and your skill set is a lot bigger than I thought it would be, and the challenge I think is always going to be there too.
It's definitely feels really good to play. It's very fun. It has a lot to offer, and I'm pretty positive that they said it's going to come to Switch at some point. But just as we were talking earlier, everything's going to come to Switch.
Oh God, I can only hope.
When is it going to happen though? So that one you might actually want to wait on. If you're seriously considering getting it, do it up on the Switch. It'd be
I
a lot of
can't
fun
live
to play.
like this, Ben. I'm gonna say that with everything. Like, I'm just gonna be like, "Oh, that looks good." Oh, but what if it comes out on the Switch? I don't want to have to buy it twice.
Well, E3's a week away. We're gonna get some dates, I think, for some stuff. Hopefully,
we're gonna get a date for fucking Mario, November. Everyone else have fun.
Oh, please say November. I can definitely do that.
We're getting into the deep end of this, so I think we should talk a little bit about what's coming up for E3 at least. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is maybe out of your wheelhouse because it's a lot of big AAA bullshit, and to be honest, a lot of this stuff I'm not exactly enthused about either. But we have to talk about it. We must.
Oh shit!
How many E3s have you watched personally in the last few years?
Oh, I want to say I've at least been following pretty consistently. Like, if I miss a press conference, I'll try to go back and watch it since maybe 3 years. Like, I've really only recently been paying close attention. Of course, I've seen announcements in years prior, but the past few years have been the most hyped.
Absolutely, especially because all these new consoles have come into their own. You know, the PS4 is in a good place. The Switch has just come out. Xbox, I don't know what's going on. We'll hit that in a minute. But I've watched, I think, almost all of E3 for the past 5 years, and it's become a tradition now where I will take off at least 2 days, so I can sit at home and just watch all this bullshit unfold live. It's a nerdy thing to do, but I fucking love it. I love E3. It's so exciting. It's so much fun watching everything come out. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, but it's just all bullshit. Like, look at it." And a lot of this stuff, like Final Fantasy VII. Where the fuck is that? Shenmue. What happened there? Like, yeah, you're right. A lot of it is marketing bullshit. But on the flip side, you get like genuine surprises. Like last year when they revealed Resident Evil 7, that was absolutely shocking. And then that comes out in January. You had stuff like God of War, Spider-Man, a bunch of new Nintendo stuff. There's always a lot of surprises that come out sooner rather than later, even if there are quite a lot of games that are to be continued, to be announced. Like, we're going to be watching Death Stranded E3s for the next 3 fucking years. But it doesn't matter because I'm still interested in it.
Yeah, of course. But that's the thing, is like they save those big games to just showcase basically once, maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
Because, Death Stranding, you'll just get snippets until it gets closer, then you'll start seeing a little momentum building up for it, and then eventually at E3 they're going to launch it.
Yeah.
It'll just shadow drop out of nowhere, E3, Death Stranding, here you go.
Yeah. That's how it should be.
Yeah, of course. No, I love that. The past few years have been really cool. Like, Fallout 4 was announced and then released. While I'm not jazzed on that game, I thought that was a really cool, they held off all details on that game.
That was really great. That was a great review.
So, and then they also released the Fallout Shelter game that weekend for iOS, and I was like, this is how you do it. This is how you get people interested. Because at that point, I was thinking, hey, I might actually play Fallout 4, and then Fallout 4 came out. And, that's history. But I was, for a while, I was actually excited about that. And that to me is why I love E3, is the excitement you get afterwards and the conversations it spurs.
Yeah. So let's dive into it stark naked and start with the most stark naked conference of them all, Ubisoft. This is the one that for my article that I'm gonna be putting up on the site, I wrote the most about Ubisoft because I hate them so much.
That sounds about right.
So for this year, Ubisoft came out with Steep, For Honor, and Ghost Recon Wildlands, and I tried all 3. And I owned one at one point. I owned For Honor, and the community had a huge drop off, from 24,000 to 2,000 in 2 months. But it doesn't change the fact that Ghost Recon Wildlands and For Honor are the #1 and #2 best-selling video games of 2017 to date, which is depressing as fuck. Fucking bullshit. We always fall for this shit. Every year they show off a bunch of cool shit, and then the next year it all comes out and it all gets fucked up. There's something about all these games, and there's something about us as users. We keep falling for this shit, and I have to put my foot down. I don't care what they show this year. Oh man, fucking Assassin's Creed. I know they're going to show Assassin's Creed.
Yep, inevitably.
Assassin's Creed again. Even though everyone from Guerrilla Games to Arcane to even fucking Nintendo did a better open world, better traversal-based assassin games, what can they offer? What is it going to take Ubisoft to market Assassin's Creed to bend to fever? What is it going to take for me to sell you this Assassin's Creed game? Man.
Nothing. It's unfair to the franchise in a way that I won't even give it a shot, but it's got Minions syndrome. If I saw the movie Despicable Me, I would probably really enjoy the Minions, but I won't give it a chance because the marketing for it was so in my face that I was so mad at it, and I just wanted it gone. I wanted it out of my face forever. And that's how I feel about Assassin's Creed. It's not that I don't think that the games are good or that they could be good, because I think that
Don't worry, they won't be.
well, I feel like they've hit some marks in a few years, but
Yeah.
it's like Call of Duty. Like it comes out every year. You know it's coming out at this point, and that's why I feel like it's unfair of me to deny somebody else the pleasure in that game. But I will never try an Assassin's Creed game. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of Tom Clancy gun bro bullshit with stuff like Wildlands. I'm sure they're gonna unveil some kind of Splinter Cell. I don't care. Like, Metal Gear Solid came and went. Like, that was perfect. Nobody's gonna hit that mark ever again with stealth-based gameplay, honestly, of that kind
I agree.
of game.
Everything else felt like a copycat back when the first Metal Gear Solid came out, and
So, what are we waiting for from Ubisoft? We're waiting for Beyond Good and Evil 2. When is that gonna come out with more footage? That's still kind of a sacred cow in some circles. We're waiting for, I guess, the South Park game, which looks pretty funny. That's not coming out for a while. That's been delayed multiple times.
Is it again?
Again, yeah. It just keeps getting delayed.
No.
Though I will say I am pretty interested in the new Far Cry game, which for the first time it's happening on American soil in Montana, and not on some deserted desert island with some psychopath. Now you're up against some kind of crazy nutjob doomsday cult, and I've always been a fan of the Far Cry games, and probably because I've only played one of them, so I haven't gotten tired of it. I played Far Cry 4 and I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm really into the fact that now they're adding like little seaplanes and kind of naval warfare in this one, which should be fun from a first-person perspective. The landscape is definitely going to be different because now we're situated in America. It's not like some random fictional Polynesian empire anymore. So we do have that, and God help me, that is definitely a Ubisoft game that I'm excited for, but aside from that, I can't see myself really giving a shit about Assassin's Creed or whatever Ghost Wildlands DLC is available. It's just become very tiresome, and I know, I hate that I know that they've sold so many goddamn copies of shit. But that's just the way it works, and it's diminishing returns because most of their games, they sell really well at first, and they have a decent tail, but then you see the user base slip more and more in the coming months. So it's like everyone just buys it and has fun with it for a week, and then it's just like, wow, this sucks. Like, but we still get fooled by it, so fuck you, Ubisoft. Fuck you. That's my final word. Fuck you, you assholes.
If they sell the rights to the Scott Pilgrim game back to whoever can actually handle that, I think that would be my E3 of dreams from them.
Oh, that'll never happen. We can only hope, but this might be their last E3. They might be getting...
What?
Yeah, well, they might be getting involved. They're involved right now, I think, in that hostile takeover with Vivendi. I think.
That's right. Well, I honestly hope they don't sell, because even though I'm not a huge fan of them, I think that they were doing something right, but clearly they weren't doing everything right.
I think it's not because of sales; it's just a hostile takeover, is what it is. So they don't really have a choice.
Yeah, somebody's just full on. It's like, I want to buy you,
and you have no choice. Like, here you go. Like,
you're gonna have to deal with it because here's money. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I want your shirt, Ben, and I'm buying it. And you're like, no, I like this shirt. And I say, well, it doesn't matter because I'm buying it. So that's the dumbest fucking way I could explain it, but I want your shirt. Like,
it's true. I'm wearing a really cool shirt. It's actually a Hyper Light Drifter shirt.
That is a really good fucking shirt, and now I want it. You know what? I'm staging a hostile takeover here. And I'm going to buy your shirt, and you can't say no.
Oh, you're going to have to come here and take it, my friend.
Oh, man. Well, I'll get my brother to take it. He's in Michigan today.
Oh? Really?
I'm not sure if he's in Detroit, but I don't know. I learned about this too late, so I couldn't guide him in your direction to receive hospitality, I guess.
I didn't even know you had a brother.
Wow,
so
there's a lot we
nice.
don't know about each other.
Yeah. Big news right here.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, we're going to have to like do something radical, like exchange nudes after the podcast or something. I know what everyone out there is thinking. What do you mean they haven't exchanged nudes yet? We're like 4 episodes in.
Yeah, of course.
Jesus.
That's what everybody's thinking.
Oh, man. I know. We're going to get like lewd fan fiction out of this episode now. I look forward to it.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Yoko Taro us, like, send me zip files.
Oh my god. Okay, on that note, I want to move on.
Yeah, let's keep it going.
Okay, so we've got Sony. Now, Sony for the past few years has absolutely crushed it, basically. They've just come out and dropped the mic for the past 2 goddamn presentations. It's absolutely nuts. They could just come out here this year and just say, hey, we're going to continue what we're doing, and then just fucking leave, and that would be it. Like, that would be... They'd win E3, if there is such a thing. I don't believe anyone wins E3, but that's good.
Hey, we'll see you at PSX. That's it.
PSX.
Oh, man. Yeah, they'll just drop everything then. Yeah, I don't know what are we expecting from them. Like, they literally could give us anything. I think it would be... I mean, we're going to see Death Stranding, right?
We're going to see that. We're going to see God of War Dad Edition again.
Yep,
we're going to see
course.
Days Gone and Spider-Man, definitely. I think will be on the show floor.
Yes. Yep.
And I think they're going to have a big part in showing off Destiny 2, because I think they have exclusive rights to certain material that's coming out for Destiny 2.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to be the ones to launch Destiny 2 news.
Always got to be the one that's first to the punch with Destiny. Yeah.
Well, the only other platform it might come out on is computer, right? But that's not even a guarantee right now?
Oh, no, it's guaranteed. It's coming out on PS4, Xbox One, and it's actually launching exclusively through Blizzard's client for PC.
Oh, that's how it's coming. Okay. I didn't know it was getting Xbox One. I thought it was PlayStation exclusive.
That would be too funny if it just didn't bother coming out for Xbox One. It would just be confirming what everybody knows, like this fucking piece of shit console nobody cares about.
Oh god. Yeah. Oh man.
They're probably going to show off the Crash Bandicoot collection one more time before it releases at the end of the month. And beyond that, maybe we'll get to see what From Software is working on now. It might be too early, but who knows?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess it could be too early. Yeah, I don't know. When was the last thing they dropped? Dark Souls 3. And then essentially we've been getting a bunch of Souls-like, so it would be really cool to see something new by them, but...
The Sitting.
Maybe we won't see it until, like, November? Is that when the next thing?
That's like Tokyo Game Show, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The Sitting. It's going to be The Sitting. From Software presents The Sitting.
The Sitting. Yeah, that's right.
Cthulhu sits on a chair, and that's it. I think the bottom line is that Sony is very unpredictable, and for the past few years, I've been completely surprised by everything they've done. So...
they do bring their A game, that's for sure.
And they've said this year... I'm going to talk for 90 seconds, and then the rest of the presentation is just straight-out games. So they've figured it out. Like, by now, they know that we don't want dancing people and fucking Usher singing and listening to Pele talk about fucking soccer for 20 minutes. It's not like EA or Ubisoft or even, like, Microsoft. It's just, I'm going to talk for, like, 2 seconds, and then we're going to dive right in here, which is how it should be.
Yes. I mean, they give us that beautiful orchestra.
Oh, yeah.
They're great. Yeah, like, how come EA is so boring?
We'll get to that. Don't worry. We'll get to that. This question has eluded man for hundreds of years. So we're going to jump into probably the most interesting company on the list. Nintendo, who is giving a pre-recorded statement as usual. It's a Nintendo Direct on next Tuesday, and the majority of that block will be devoted to Super Mario Odyssey, I guess.
Definitely.
So I'm hoping they can spare a little bit of time to do something like maybe talk about the Virtual Console. When are we getting that? Maybe drop Mother 3 in there. Maybe, I don't know, just like, you know.
So, Nintendo is notorious for not really... are they actually doing a press conference, or are they just doing directs?
They're doing a direct, and then it's followed up by the Nintendo Treehouse, I think, afterwards on the show floor. Yeah.
So, I am imagining that at the Treehouse you're going to hear a lot more. Hopefully you'll hear something, but I feel like that's where you'll hear about the Virtual Console. Although, it would make sense to throw it into the direct, but at the time of this recording, they've yet to release the Pokemon Direct, which is coming out soon.
That's tomorrow, yeah, and I'm thinking the stars are about to align. We're gonna get Pokemon Stars.
I believe you are correct, friend. But they have an 8-minute direct for it, so what are we gonna get? And like, what wouldn't they save for E3? And the only thing I can speculate is that E3 is going to be significantly focused on Mario Odyssey in a similar way to Zelda was last year. Not exclusively, of course, because they've got some big stuff coming out, ARMS and Splatoon, and I'm sure they're going to want to show off some, hopefully, please, new games.
We haven't figured out what's coming out beyond this year. Like, everything they've shown is 2017 only, so beyond this year, it is a complete mystery. We have no idea what's coming out, and that scares me a little, but it excites me a little, because they're the kind of company that will talk about a game and say, oh, well, this is coming out 4 months from now. And that's what they've always liked to do. Like, they did that with games like Punch-Out and Donkey Kong Country Returns. Like, they did it with a lot of high-profile stuff. And that's just how they do business. That's really what they like to do these days. And I think they learned their lesson with stuff like Xenoblade Chronicles X and even Breath of the Wild, because they announced those games very, very early, and those games kept missing their release marks. So maybe they're playing it a little safer this time. I don't know.
Almost too safe, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, just a forewarning to you. I'm getting the wrap it up symbol. So if we could speed through our next press conferences here, let's do it up.
So what do we got next? We got Bethesda. Well, see, this is going to be the first Bethesda conference, I think, without Todd Howard. So nothing by the Fallout guy. Fallout 4 is done. The Arcane guys are tapped out. You know, we've got Dishonored 2. We got Prey out. You know, Arcane is done. All right, so the two big studios are done. So who's left? I'm going to put my finger on Wolfenstein getting a new expansion.
Yes.
Wolfenstein New Colossus, I think, is a name that's been thrown around for at least a year due to a small leak. I'm just going to come out and say Wolfenstein, and God help me, I'm going to predict Evil Within gets a new game, even though I fucking hated the first game. So, that's Bethesda. You know, they always have good press conferences, and they've been killing it the last 2 years, so I'm very confident.
I find it so funny, because they launch games with so many bugs, but they are still one of the most loved companies.
Doom was pristine, thank you very much.
Okay, I was going to say, that's the thing, they drop you those little, like, well, here's a game that you were expecting to be terrible and is incredible.
Yeah.
And then they give you these immense open worlds that are just like, hey, you can climb a mountain, but then you realize that you can't climb the mountain.
No.
Yeah, so we're going down the rabbit hole with Bethesda, but that I think overall good impressions and good things expected from them.
Okay, real quick, EA. Does anyone care about EA? Like, I have written here, Jesus, does anyone still care about EA?
They don't.
No.
The thing about them, though, is that there are a lot of people that buy sports games. A lot of people care about those, and that's the only reason they have to do it every year, specifically to the sports stuff, is that, like, they're not roping in new people necessarily, but they are letting people know what they are working on in that field. But they do pop out with the Star Wars stuff. So we have Battlefront 2 this year, right?
Yeah, Battlefront 2 is the only thing I'm interested in because Dead Space is dead, Mirror's Edge is dead, Mass Effect is dead.
Skate is dead. I'm pining so much for a Skate 4 or some sort of equivalent, but we're getting nothing right now, and they've denied numerous times the moving it from Skate 3 from PS3 to PS4, making it available. So yeah, my fingers are crossed, but I that's the only thing I want from them. They're not giving it.
All right, I've got 2 more companies right here. Okay, we got Microsoft. What's going to happen with Microsoft? You got your most powerful system ever, the Scorpio, bro. Where are the games? It doesn't matter. Hey, I still don't care. I don't know how you feel about this, about the Scorpio.
It's the system you've always wanted because, let's face it, you're going to have to build it yourself every time, every year.
You mean a PC?
$500 for it. Oh, wait, they have that. You're right. It's called a PC. Go buy one. If you really want a good system, just buy a freaking PC. Don't buy a Scorpio.
They had a Hideki Kamiya exclusive and they canceled it.
They canceled all their best games and potential sequels. So I feel so bad for them, but they've done it to themselves, and I feel like maybe they need to move into another area of the games market. We'll see. If they have games to announce, then they might be good. But they canceled some of the ones that people were looking forward to most, and I think that's going to hurt them a lot. Even now at E3, with people looking forward to stuff, I think that still looks bad.
Oh well, I guess we'll see. That's all. Yeah. That's all we can say about Microsoft. But if
all we know is the Scorpio, right?
It's the Scorpio they're going to announce. Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
If Devil May Cry 5 is announced as a Scorpio exclusive, maybe you'll get my attention. All right. But that's it.
But it won't be. It's going to be a Switch exclusive.
Don't fucking say that. You jinxed it. That is not going to happen, oh man.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't tease such beautiful things.
Alright, so for the last one, this is a new development because this is a company that has never had the E3 stage. So I'm going to just say 2 words in quick succession. Devolver, Ruiner.
Boom! This is like the best news that I heard just the other day.
Great. I can't wait.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
This is when I heard that. I mean, I was already looking forward to Nintendo and Sony, but Devolver having their own press conference, and it's not the picnic. It's a press conference for all intents and purposes, and there's so many games that I've been wanting to hear about from them, and all the devs have been tight-lipped. This is so cool. I'm as starry-eyed as it gets at the notion that they're going to be on stage.
Finally reached the big time, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to see an indie developer go, or a publisher go to a big stage like that. They do have a really good stage presence from what I've seen at other shows, but this is like a big, big deal. I'm expecting Aider, I'm expecting Crossing Souls, I'm expecting to see, we're guaranteed to see Absolver because that comes out this summer, and then Ruiner will be there for sure.
Finally, you'll be able to hear me shut the fuck up about this game because finally I'll be able to play it.
I hope we get a date. That's all I'm worried about, is that they're going to push it to fall or something, and then we're not going to get a date yet.
God.
But that game looks so good. Hey, that actually might work out because I'm not so sure what other fall games you're going to have besides Mario. We've yet to see.
Red Dead Redemption got pushed back to next year.
It did. Yeah. That was a good move on their part.
Yeah, why not?
That's so exciting, man. I'm so pumped.
Look.
They have a new game to announce tomorrow.
Yeah, I see that.
It looks really cool, but I don't know what we're going to see. And, this is a really good time for them. And I was talking to my friends at Detroit Arcade Club, and, they definitely have had a little bit of a decline, at least in 2016, toward the latter end, like basically, summer 2016 to where we are now.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't put out too many really amazing games. They put out a bunch of games that were highly anticipated and fully flopped. Like, I can't say that it fully flopped, but Mother Russia Bleeds didn't do as well as I expected it to.
That's kind of a low scoring thing.
Oh man, Strafe just ate shit. I hope these devs figure out what they're doing, but Devolver as a whole, I think they've got a strong history of games, beautiful. It's not a discography, gamography.
Gamography. Yeah.
So I'm so pumped. I'm glad you brought it up.
I'm so goddamn hyped for Ruiner that if this game sucks, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Oh man, it won't. You've seen it.
I've seen the previews.
Beautiful.
I've read the previews. I think it's gonna be good.
But early impressions so far are pretty good. I think that's enough to go on for right now. That game's gonna be good. It looks so beautiful.
So that's pretty much the E3 presentations in a nutshell. But let's end it by asking ourselves what's one game that isn't really tied to any of these companies, but that you want to make an appearance at E3 in some form.
Shit, that's really tough. A game that isn't tied to anybody.
Yeah, like they don't have like a company represented here, they're like a thing to itself.
I honestly, on the indie end of things, we don't get a whole lot of huge announcements at E3, but I would really like to know or see what the guy from Stardew Valley is going to do next.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I don't think that we're going to see anything about that other than the fact that it's coming to Switch, but I would really like to see what he's cooking up next.
See, for me, the answer is very simple. There's this game called 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, that was previewed 2 goddamn years ago. And it's a Vanillaware game, and I love...
Those are those bitter stories.
Everything that they do, I absolutely love. And they haven't said shit. For 2 years, they haven't said or displayed anything about this game. It's like some schoolgirl, mech brawler or some shit. It's ridiculous. It looks beautiful and amazing, and I don't know anything about it, and neither does anybody else. They haven't said anything. Where is it? Does it exist? There was this brief leak, in this microcosm of existence, where this E3 show floor thing said, oh, look, try out these 5 games, this, and Aegis Rim. And then it was edited out several days later.
No.
So what's going on? Maybe it was a leak. Maybe they didn't mean to put it there. Maybe it's being held back. What is going on with this game? This is my new Allison Road obsession with, for me.
Oh, man. And that is a good-looking game, too, that I don't want to get into that. But, yeah, I'm gonna have to look this up because I didn't even know about this.
There's only one trailer. There's nothing about it. It's ridiculous.
Hey, that's fine. As long as there's something out there on it.
Oh man,
that would be a good announcement. I'd love to see something. I don't know. It sucks when they tease something and then it just never comes to fruition.
Yeah. Well, last year the big leak was about possibly a Sony exclusive Spider-Man, and right up until the very moment they released it, I was convinced it was just a fake fucking rumor. And then when they finally revealed it, that was so goddamn good. I still remember how excited I was for that.
This Aegis Rim looks really good, by the way. I would be into that.
It looks weird, but Vanillaware is really, really cool. So I'm really anxious to play their next game.
Nice.
So yeah, that's about it, I think, for E3. And
this has been. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything else. I have the word Virtual Console written down in my notes, but when I first glanced at it, I thought it said Virtual Boy. and I don't think that's going to show up. I have a
probably not. Nintendo doing VR and they call it the Virtual Boy again. Oof. That I actually think I might be offended by that.
You know what? I would love that. Fucking go for it. I bet it sells out immediately.
So they fire the guy who invented the original Virtual Boy, and then he ends up dying like a month or so after he actually leaves Nintendo, and then they bring back the Virtual Boy like 20 years later. Like, oh my god, talk about painful.
You know what? Forget it now. This sounds awful. But yeah, for any other information and griping, I'll have an article up on my site soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, with a bunch of
where
E3
can we
stuff,
find
so
you?
You can read my whole spiel on how much I hate Ubisoft and shit.
But where can we do that at?
It's SNESsteve.com. So
all right,
I got my .com. I revamped the website, so that's SNESTEVE.com.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that'll be
That's
good.
What I love to hear.
I'll have some stuff about probably Injustice, which I don't feel like getting into on the podcast because I think it's better that people read about it. There's not much I can really say on this podcast about a fighting game. I feel it's probably just better I just go, hey, it's great, here's all this stuff, it's like Tamagotchi, 9 out of 10, like that's it'll make sense if you read it, trust me.
Yeah, I actually heard somebody talking about it on another podcast, and they were like pretty much just that. It was like this really quick blurb, and they normally go on and on and on about games. So yeah, it's a fighting game.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we could do a fighting game episode down the line, but...
that's a good idea.
I think that, for now, it's definitely awesome to direct people to your site.
Yeah, and we'll have links to the podcast and the YouTube and whatever, and, we'll keep going forward with it, making, I think, a dedicated Twitter for it, yada, yada, yada. So,
oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. We, once again, we will promise to do our best to keep up with this podcast as often as we can. We do apologize for the breaks, but at the same time, screw it. We're just having a good old time.
We're just having a good old time. And you know what? Everything you're hearing on this podcast, you heard it here first. So just remember that.
First. That's us. We're first.
So,
title screen.
So if Aegis Rim and Stardew Valley 2 Stardew Harder come out on E3, then you heard it here first.
Excellent. Stardew
Harder.
Hot news coming here first.
Alright, you want to plug anything? Go for it.
Yeah. The only thing I want to plug is our good friend Snese. You can follow him on Twitter at SNESEI. He is a really good guy. He did our theme song, intro track, and outro, which you should be hearing now or soon. That's pretty much it. My friend's at Detroit Arcade Club, but he's a member of that too. So always nice to plug a good pal.
I've never met him, but he's my friend too, just by virtue.
Yes, he is. Absolutely. Yeah, we use the song "He Becomes Your Friend."
Yeah.
No, he's a great guy. Great music. Go check his stuff out. Other than that, I don't have anything to plug. I'm still working on my website. Little by little, very little by little. Hopefully next time we do a podcast, which shouldn't be too long after E3, we will, or during, we will have some hot licks for you guys, and then maybe by then I'll have some better news on the website front. But yeah, for now I am at BlipFever on Twitter, so please give me a ring.
And for me, you'll never find me.
Nope, we keep you a mystery. You're just our little,
people could just fucking
Steven.
Look it up, probably.
Yeah, they'll find you.
They'll find me. Yeah.
I'm gonna tag you in the description, so don't worry about it. Thank you all for listening. Yeah, it's been real. Hope you guys have a good and happy E3. We will too. So.
Yeah, and if you play Ubisoft games, I don't hate you. I think you can do better. I'm a disapproving father.
We just hate everything you do. Doesn't mean we hate you. So.
Listen, son, you can play them Ubisoft games if y'all like, but I got a full liquor locker full of them indies down in the basement. Don't you be poking at my indies.
I think that's gonna have to be our outro today.
Don't be poking at them indies.
Don't you be poking at my indies.
So long, everybody.
Bye.